Decoded Podcast, Season 5, Episode 44. It's been a couple of weeks, has it? 2, 3, maybe? I
Um,
don't know anymore, bro.
June 11th. June
June
11th was our
11th.
last drop in. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that it's it. June 11th. That's
Oh,
the,
was it? Sorry, I flipped over to Twitter. It was the tree.
it was
Yeah.
the tree. Yeah. So back on June 11th. So yeah, we didn't get to last week.
It was the
But
flat top tree.
the flat top tree. Yeah. The box tree, the boxwood. I don't know. I'm trying to make a connection. Gardeners out there, you know what a boxwood is. You know what a boxwood is?
It's a tree.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Kind of a bushy tree. Kind of has yellow leaves on it. Little yellow leaves.
So I
Not
hope. Oh,
anything
sorry.
like what I drew, but you're right. There's a box around the tree. Go, man. Go.
I hope you laugh that with my tweet that I just sent out. I'm trying to
Okay.
recruit people in to come watch. I did say something about you and microaggressions, and
Oh,
maybe
did you put that out there?
you think that's bad, eh? Do you think that's bad?
Oh,
Tell me.
no, that's good. We can deal.
Oh.
We can deal.
No,
That's
no,
okay.
but you need to be real here. When you
I
see
am.
that, are you like, uh-oh, is
Oh,
that bad? Like, does that wreck your brand or something?
it totally ruins my brand. You've put me in you've put in the dark algorithm space. That's what you've done to me.
Do you want me to delete it?
No, I
Okay.
want to talk about it. Let's talk about it.
It's
That is
funny.
that is a good gift though.
I
There's
thought you'd
something
like that.
there's something very satisfying about that gift. That
As soon as
gift is the industrial version of a moment that I had the day before with a kid. No, because we in my classroom, and I want to talk a little bit. I'm moving classrooms this year, so I want to next year. So I'm in cleanup mode, right? Now, part of the way I use a classroom and that I encourage my kids to use a classroom, and you'll remember in season 2, maybe 3, could have been 4, possibly it was season 1 of this podcast. I don't know. You remember the conversation we had about you back in the school using the whole school as a learning space and talking about some of the like some people are not cool with that, and there's some
Yep.
spaces like don't get too close to the office, yo, or you know, Mr. Jimmy's class down there, don't be learning outside that one. And we talked about how awesome it would be to use to really, really dig into whole school learning where classrooms are just one of the places that you happen to be with purpose. So I've never let go of that. That's always been deep in my kind of like the way that I roll through school. So we could be in the hallway, we could be out on the out in the green space behind the school. And within the classroom, I also encourage the kids like vertical spaces. Okay, we could drop a whiteboard, but you can also use like dry erase markers on a well painted wall and just wipe it off. So I encourage my kids to use the whole space. So one of the spaces we used this past semester, we needed a scoreboard. We're having Uno tournaments. And our Uno tournament was progressive scoring. So one of the ways you can play Uno is that whatever you're left holding when someone goes out becomes the points that you collect. And there's a whole point system within the rules for different cards that you have, right? So the object of the game is to not have points. You want to stay low points. If you're getting a lot of points, I guess you could play that game too. You try to get as many cards as you can. Actually, that's a really neat. I'm going to suggest that to the kids. So try to get points instead. So if you go out too soon, you actually lose. Okay. Anyways, the way what we were doing, I posted up an image. I don't know. I think I put it. I don't know. I put it on my Insta or whatever. And it's just it's a picture of the word cluff. It looks like it's kind of like hanging in midair, but it's actually the last bit of window marker that was left from our scoreboard. So here's the thing. Your gift. Here's the big wraparound. Cluff doing the whole storyteller moment. Gather around, kids. I'm going to tell a story about something not important. I use a window scraper to take off that marker from the window. Like you don't want to go in with it. Windex turns into a smearing mess. You got to scrape it. Here's the ASMR for all of our listeners. Is there any sound to that?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear that.
I can hear that.
Or it's a little bit like this. That's what it sounds like. I'm imagining. That's ASMR. People can now use our podcast. part of our Empathy Engines product line. Clough and Roland, ASMR, decoded. Just relax. Yeah, that sounded like that actually.
Roland drinking his tea. ASMR, baby.
Actually, it's Roland getting sloppy kiss from Aunt Jimmy. That was, and then
And Jimmy.
and then Aunt Jimmy, and then this deep, satisfying. I don't know if that's Aunt Jimmy satisfied giving you the Aunt Jimmy coming in all sloppy kiss. Okay, so the kid, back to me. The kid with the student walks in and is watching me scrape the window and says, "I bet you that's deeply satisfying." And I
Mm,
turned to the kid, I said, "Not as satisfying as you would think." But I got where they were coming from, the scraping, kind of the scraping of the paint. I
mm,
said, "There's something not like there's something about the texture of the scrape. It's not quite right for me." Because as you scraped, it all came out like this long, kind of ribbony. The markers, the window markers that we have, it's equivalent of like it's almost like an acrylic based paint, but it stays kind of flexible. Like it doesn't all just chip off and flake. So as you scrape, you're getting like this carrot peel or orange peel of marker from the window. And that's what the kid noticed. It looked like this ribbon hanging off my arm, right? And
mm.
they said that must be deeply satisfying. I'm like, you know what? Not as satisfying as you would think. However, your tweet with that tractor just like barreling between the cars, I'm like, bet you that's deeply satisfying
Mhm.
on a sort of like industrial gargantuan scale. Because I have it on loop just beside my window here. I'm like, that's really satisfying looking. Incredibly dangerous too, right? Like I'm sure like that's a staged something or other. It looks like something from a movie, maybe. Those
It's
cars
good
go
stuff.
flying.
I love it.
Yeah.
As soon as I
Um,
saw it, I knew it was for us.
yeah, yeah. Also reminds me like a couple of my students move through the halls like that. Like they beeline to class. They do. They beeline to class, which is cool. I mean, that's cool. Um, all the cars kind of moving aside are, different people heads down on their phones, you know. Sometimes my students will come to class and like, why is everybody moving so slow? I'm like, yo, that's kind of like how high school works sometimes. So thank you for that. That gift meant a lot. Microaggressions. So let's go there. Let's go
Sh-
there. Load it
Sure.
up.
So the best part of it, whatever you want to call it, is that for me, I recognized it. I could see I could see what you said in two ways,
Hmm.
which I've been on my journey to become more of an equity champion and understand inclusion and the importance of diversity and the negative aspects of diversity to become more fluent around EDI. I've been doing lots of reading and I have
Break
to
it out.
say,
Break it out. EDI. But this is
um,
the no acronym zone. Come on. Come on
equity,
now.
diversity, inclusion.
Thank you.
Um, I have to say I've been programmed well by the part of society that wants me to comply with all rules and um, like I'm having a hard time verbalizing that I'm a good citizen in terms of like I do what I'm told, I follow the rules, I stay within the box of citizenship the way that maybe the colonial system has established it. I hope that makes sense to people. Well, I guess if it doesn't, I'm not really bothered about that, but so I'm good that way. So it's hard for me to see things sometimes from outside of that box when it comes to equity, diversity, and inclusion. Um, so anyway, lots of reading, lots of studying, lots of talking, lots of getting messy with it because it's the only way. It really is the only way to learn how to deal is to get messy with it. And you said this morning we
Hmm.
were talking about. We came onto the podcast. You said buongiorno, and I said something about French, and you're like, no, it's Italian. I'm like, oh, I was thinking bonjour, and then you laughed, and then you said to me, I think this is what you said. How do you say hello in your language?
Hmm.
And the first thing I thought was in English, because I was born here. I've been told by many people, including my father, you are a Canadian. Don't let
Mhm,
anybody tell you think anything different. Well, in Canada, the official languages are French and English. So the first thing I think was or is, why are you asking that question? I'm Canadian. I'm English. And then I was like, I had like a little smirk on my face. I'm like, that was a microaggression. When
mhm,
even I know that you didn't. If you were in the street right now with a bunch of EDI lovers, yeah, they'd be hammering you. They'd be yelling at you, screaming, "You're a racist! You're microaggression this, microaggression that." But I know you. I know that that's not the way you roll. So, but it was just interesting because it was the "Where are you really from?" question, but about my
mhm,
language. And I was like, I was just as you're sitting back there laughing or doing whatever. I'm like, I'm so proud of myself that I recognize that that could be if I was in a store buying something and somebody says to me, "How do you say hello in your language?" It can be construed as a microaggression.
mhm,
I I think it also depends on the conversation you're having and what's going on. I don't believe automatically for someone to say to me, "Where are you from?" I don't believe that for me that's not automatically a microaggression. When they start to make assumptions, um, your people this and your people that, and oh, you might not understand this because of where you come from. Then it might be like, whoa, hold on here. What are you talking about? You know nothing about me, but yet we're going down this road. So anyway, um, so you say that I think microaggression, but then funny, I want to flip the switch a little bit. When I would go into Middle Eastern stores or whatever, and they speak to me in Arabic and I respond in English, they look at me like, "What's your problem?" Like what I'm doing to them is a microaggression.
mhm.
It's like, "Why are you doing this to us? You've come in
As
our"
in not responding in kind, basically.
and being like, "Whoa, whoa, like, what are you doing here? You're breaking the code. We're talking to you in our language, and you're responding in English." I'm like, "Well, I'm not trying to offend. I can't speak it anymore." So it's either I don't say anything to you and I just stare at you like this, or I communicate and let you know that there's an issue on why I can't communicate with you in the way that you're communicating with me. I don't know. The whole thing, I'm just proud of myself. I'm just proud. Microaggress all you want. It's all good with me.
I am it brings back memories, part of this or brings up memories of so if I were to say hello in my one of my languages, I would say dzień dobry, which is kind of like a common you're sort of like all access, good day, good day.
All
That's what it
access.
in Polish, right? Uh and then you might say do widzenia if you're saying goodbye. Um, so I have very strong memories of um being hang so I would hang so my mom's side of the family is Polish. And there were a few summers where I'd go and hang with that side of the fam. Like I would just kind of be dropped off and I'd stay for a week or stay for a weekend or something. And I have a strong memory of my grandparents always trying to talk to me in Polish. Now they would never here's what was interesting. They would never do it. They would never do okay, so the moment that it plays out is while my mom was there, they would say things to me in Polish and I never learned the language. I know the nuances of it. I get the emotionality, I get the anchoring gestures that come along with the language, the different sort of facial gestures. Like there's different layers to the grammar of a language. It's not just the words, right?
Hmm.
So I understand that more clearly than I do, let's say, specific words. There are words that I still remember. What's one of the strong memories though is my grandparents, particularly my grandmother, kind of berating my mom for the fact that when they talk to me in Polish, I don't understand it. And it's like, what's wrong? Like, why doesn't Krishu know what we're saying? And they would sort of, pepper in some English as they're saying Polish So I got but again, I understand the gestural grammar. Like my mom's taken heat for this, and this played out a few different times. Um, what's interesting, I guess, is that I don't have a memory of, like, I don't have a memory of my mom pushing that agenda though for me to learn Polish. And they did, I say they, my mom and my dad, they did with my sister. My sister went to Polish school for the longest time on Saturdays. She would be going to, classes on Saturday mornings. And I don't know how much of that stuck. I've actually never gone back to that memory with my sister. So yeah, when I think of my intent of asking how you say it in your language was definitely riffing on a conversation that I thought we were in about languages. I think I definitely was thinking, I bet this dude knows how to say it in a language that I don't, and I'd love to sort of like hear what that sounds like. Um, and I entirely see how I wouldn't even say decontextualized. It definitely is that, that what I delivered to you hot and ready was in all way, shape, and form a microaggression, maybe only softened by the fact that you and I are friends. So it becomes, there's an intimate layer to it that I don't know. Um, there's no permission there that you're giving me, but you'll create space for me to kind of like talk it out afterwards. But the fact that you recognized it doesn't, it's not any more or less powerful because it comes from a friend. It's still a thing. It's totally still a thing, right? Um, and odds are less likely a question that would be asked of me because of how I'm white presenting, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, totally. That's the heart of it, dude. That's you hit the heart of it. And the part of this is so now that the conversation is on the table, I have to do the work to figure out what's my response. What is the work I need to do now, recognizing that even between friends, I can have these words. I don't know. I don't know. Is I'm just putting it out there. Do I apologize? Do I do reflective? Maybe I do all of this. I apologize. I do reflective practice. Um, I I talk to friends that can sort of help me to understand how to, do it a different way. I keep talking about it till it's completely uncomfortable and cringy. I don't know. It's like the fact that this event occurred, I guess between you and I on the on ramp, but now shared with the world, our millions of followers. Um, is it something between friends that you spend time just, focusing in on it? Does there become expectations that you don't say it like that anymore? Had I made it more specific, as in identified the language that I know you can speak because you've mentioned it a few times, and I know the culture from which you come, does that make it, does that move in kind with, how you mentioned where you're in spaces with other family and other people that are not speaking to in English, and then you respond in English, and it's like, whoa, what are you doing? Like you're kind of flipping the script on us. Um, I dig this conversation. I think it's one of those cool combo spaces because it deals with how friends treat each other, and you can kind of lens that the focal length on that, on like this moment, like you saying, happening out in public, the public and private versions of microaggressions. I don't know if I've ever experienced that conversation before. Like I don't know if I've ever really thought about it that way. I think when I envision the dark side of microaggressions, to even say the dark side is totally redundant because it's all dark side, right? But just when I think about the impact, I guess, of microaggressions, I tend to think of it from in a public forum all the time, and the potential pain and trauma and hostility that can come from experiencing that microaggression. I don't know if I ever considered before this moment the between friends microaggressions and how that may have the exact same impact as having it happen to a racialized person in an open space. So it's cool. I like this thinking. I like this thinking.
So I go back, like, I love everything you said. And it's funny that we would have this conversation because sometimes these conversations aren't even had with people who actually do, who, when they speak to me, I perceive what they're saying as microaggressions, but I may not say to them, hey, that's a microaggression. Or why are you assuming certain things? Like, I don't go down that road with them. There's a couple of reasons why. Time is one of them. It's like I don't want to waste my time. I want to do other
Mhm,
things, or I leave reflecting on it. I don't just ask the questions right away. And the reason why I think is because when I was a kid, now when I think about it, there were microaggressions left, right, and center. And when I would be uncomfortable and I would present that to my friends, they would turn around and be like, "Why are you so sensitive? Why are you?"
mhm,
So it was always, so my feeling of discomfort and wondering why I'm being treated differently was always like deflected with, "Oh, you've got a problem." So not only do I have a problem that I look different, act different, eat different, but I also have a problem that I take it a certain way. So it was like lose lose every time. I remember in high school, a couple of really good friends of mine, I was on a rant about this stuff, but I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know what to call the fact that people automatically assume, well, discrimination and making assumptions and stuff based on how I look and and maybe my family makeup or whatever. But I didn't know what to call these things. And then when I would say to them, "Hey, back the bleep up. Why are you talking like that?" They're like,
yeah.
"Wow, dude, you're so sensitive. Like, you need to relax. There's nothing going on here." Really, there was a lot going on there. I just didn't know what to call it because I was not exposed to any of that.
Do
I
you think
was
your crew knew how to see it as well? Was
My
there
crew didn't want to see it as them being racist or um talking to me in a way that would affect me negatively. They didn't want to see that. They didn't want to see it because they believe they are good people. And
you right, right. Okay.
I believe they're good people. Like, even when I think about them today, they're my they're my buddies. I miss them a lot, and I wish I could spend more time with them and talk to them and stuff. But I've lost friends over these conversations. When I say friends, it's like you're friends with on Facebook, and then all of a sudden they're not your friends anymore. I've
Mhm,
pushed back on a lot of people over the years and been like, you know what? You're going to listen to my perspective now, and you're going to hear what now I understand was going on back then with based on like certain lenses and certain things I've learned over the years about these things. And they get all bothered, like, why are you taking this to heart? Why is this such a big deal to you? I'm like, it's
mhm.
a big deal because of the way it's been covered up all this time. To cover those things up means there's something nefarious going on. And when I say cover up, I don't mean like my friends cover. I just mean like in society, I've been very well trained to not see or to not understand what the microaggressions would be. They're like, "Oh, you're just so sensitive. Why are you so sensitive?" You know? Or, "No, we didn't mean anything by it." But every time they say it, it's a joke and everybody laughs except me. So I'm like, "Okay, well, something's going down. Something's going down here. Something's happening here." So, yeah, I pushed back and they didn't like that. They didn't like it at all. Um, and part of my pushback wasn't like, "You guys are horrible people." It's like, "Hey, do you know what the frig's coming out of your mouth? Like, do you talk like that to everybody?" or you just talk like that to me because we're buddies. So there is microaggressions disguised within friendships. What you did this morning, I really don't see as a microaggression because of our friendship and watching your patterns of being. It doesn't fit for me. So for
So
me,
you so just so that, I'm gonna capitalize on your grace, thank you, but can we say call it out that it was a microaggression?
well, by definition, it was a microaggression. But
Exactly. And
was
I
did
and
I
I and I
feel?
think and I appreciate the grace that, and this is a little bit what I was saying, our ability to stick around afterwards and talk about it. This isn't a public space event that I've noticed where someone says, something in passing like that, and then afterwards, the two continue to talk about their day and mowing the lawn and everything else that kind of happens on the cast here, right? So sort of flipping the script a little bit, um the gesture, the saying was a microaggression, and in some ways you're providing me with the opportunity for reconciliation on it, like to sort of speak to it in a way that um you're not obligated to provide.
You talked about intent.
Hmm.
And normally I'd say I don't care what your intent is. This is what your effect was.
Hmm.
But you're my friend. You've spent a lot of time doing the work. I've seen you. We've talked about it. It's not like you're just sitting on the sidelines, hanging around, eating your chicken wings, and not listening to what's going on around you. I know you do the work, um, and I know, and I want to hear your intent because so
I
many
love I
times,
love how you parallel the two choices are do equity work or sit on the
or
sidelines and eat
and eat
chicken wings.
chicken
That's
wings.
just
So that I'm
that's
obviously,
what the non-workers, that's what the non-equity workers are doing.
I'm
It almost
just,
makes it seem like it's less offensive. They're
I
just eating chicken wings,
I was trying to
That's it.
find I was trying to find a way to for me to visualize just that non-care. Like you're
Yeah.
just sitting around eating, you're not thinking, you're just inhaling.
Yep.
Like you're just inhaling. Whereas you're like you inhale, exhale, you wonder what's going on here. Am I an ally? Am I learning how to like dude, I'm bouncing around now. And Aldo's here. I
Do
want to
it.
give props to Aldo, but first I want to say so in the AQ course that I'm taking,
Mhm.
I'm loving the way that we are learning about Canada's Indigenous people in this course, and I'm loving that it's just a topic that isn't just for one module. It's throughout. We're learning to be more aware as educators about Canada's Indigenous people.
So
Truth
it's
and
threaded it's
it's
threaded
it's threaded.
throughout the whole course? That's good.
It's threaded throughout the whole course. So I'm taking this really serious. And I think I love that my perspective allows me to, again, like my story, my parents come to this country and then, I grow up thinking this country's the best and I hear about the atrocities that have been committed to this country's indigenous people. It's like, are you guys kidding me? But anyway, so I'm kind of sensitive to how I talk about it and learning more. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm 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 purposely being careful in the words I choose and my thinking process around it because I would like to learn how to move in a direction that honors these people in a way that shows them respect. And some people will say, "Who cares?" And I'm like, "Well, I kind of care because of my perspective, and I kind of care because it's like I, there's so many layers. There's just so many layers. It's so a lot of people don't go deep, and I think that sometimes you got to go a little deep. I was with some friends the other night, a couple of cops, and I don't know what we were talking about, and then I said, "Oh, they mentioned an indigenous person in court." And I said, they said something. Oh, one of they're both white males, and one of them, the white maleness of him was being used against him. It was being used against him that, oh, he's a white male, so of course this is what he's doing to me because he's a white male. And then somehow I was like, oh, tell me more about this. And it was funny because I was kind of on the side. If we had to pick sides, I was on the side of the people accusing the white male of doing something that is colonial and that is negatively impacting them. And I'm like, well, you don't see that? And they're like, well, no, not in this instant because I was doing this, this, and this. I'm like, fair enough, but you got to go a little deep. And then I learned, they told me based on their experience and perception that when an indigenous person is in court and it is informed to the judge that this person is an indigenous person, in their experience, sentences are reduced. Bail is lessened. There's all kinds of things that are done to mitigate the situation. So I was like, why do they do that? Why does this happen? And they're like, well, because of all the negative things that the indigenous people have faced since the beginning of time when the Europeans came. This is all they use it against the system. And then because they this is all messy, but they're like the indigenous people say that the reason why they're committing the crimes is because of the bad things that have happened to them in the past and the way that they're dealing with their lives. That's a very stupid, simple way of saying it. But my response, I was looking at them like, uh-huh. And they're looking at me like I'm nuts. I'm looking at them like they're nuts. I'm like, so we're all just to ignore and forget what's been done to these people? And then they're looking at me and they're like, we don't want to get into a I'm like, but that's where you go. Because when you guys just dismiss it, and they weren't being dismissive, they were being like it's just another day on the job. And I'm like, but if you do that in the justice system and then I do it in the education system, then we keep dismantling these people. Like we never build them up in any major facet of our society. So in the legal system we break them down, in the education system we break them down, financial system, we break them down. We just keep breaking these people down. And then they stand up and they're like, hold on, look, do you see what you're doing to our people? And we're like, yeah, well, who cares? Because my world is just education. So I'll just teach you the way I want to teach you. And I don't want to hear about your grandfather teachings. And I don't want to hear about your oral traditions. I just want to teach you the way I want to teach you. If I'm doing that and the cops and the judicial system are doing their thing with like, no, you broke the law, and our colonial justice system says now you go to jail forever, then you're going to jail forever. It's like I just said to these guys, I'm like, I understand what you're saying, and I'm not denying that Jimmy, not the Greek Jimmy, the indigenous Jimmy, did some bad stuff and needs to pay a price like we all do if we do something bad in society. But there's something called mitigating circumstances, and one of those is that this person's indigenous and can demonstrate that they come from a people that have been tortured and berated and all kinds of other negative things. So why is that not a mitigating circumstance for Jimmy? So long story short, when I try to talk back to the system about this, some people get their backs up real quick. They're like, no, we're not having this, we're not doing this. I'm like, yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it because I played your game. I entered into your system. I received the credentials that your system provides for the hard work I put in. You put me in a leadership position, but now you want me to stay quiet? That's not going to happen. I'm going to speak. And I would love to have great conversation about it. And I'm not looking for anything except maybe like, let's talk about this. Let's try to figure it out. Let's look at different perspectives. So in this course, back to the course and then to Aldo, in the course, we had to design a unit. And one of the requirements was that we connect some of the activities we're doing, some of the learning we're doing to indigenous people. And that not only do we differentiate how we teach, what we teach, and what the students produce, but that we take into consideration our indigenous learners in general, just like we would our ELL students and our students on IEPs with accommodations and or modifications. And I just think it's fantastic because what happens to me is I learn more. I learn to be better, right? I learn to understand the tools I put in my toolbox to help me be a better teacher, a better relationship builder, because that's what it's about. Because the kids aren't coming to school generally for school, they're coming to school for the relationships, and that's where we can hook them. And if Jimmy understands that Mr. C is going to be cool with Jimmy can't do a lot of things. So let's focus on what Jimmy can do. And then let's see how I can harness all of that to really understand if Jimmy's learning or not. And it's hard. It's not easy. It sucks some days. You're tired. You're like, I don't want to. I'm starting to realize that when I start saying, I don't want to, that's a great time for me to stop and reflect because it means I'm missing something. That's what I've learned about myself. And it's taken like 45 years to figure that out. But better late than never. So Aldo says, good morning. Quite the topic. He can relate. 100% Aldo. And then Aldo said, he mentioned this earlier, like 10 minutes earlier, that the difference is that responsibility is accepted. So I think Clough, Aldo was talking about, you saying that I'm providing you with grace, but to Aldo's credit, you are saying like, whoa, I did something wrong. I didn't mean to, but let me hear about it more and let's see how I can maybe learn to maneuver, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, it's I appreciate that. It's pretty easy to be a model white man, right?
I
And
do a good job of it. I'm not even a white man.
hey, um MWM. Yeah, it's and this is, coming into this, coming into this conversation. And thank you, Aldo. Any listen. I mean, part of I think part of also accepting the responsibility, if I'm gonna monolithize white men, um, is that the responsibility is, talking as openly as possible about what does it mean to accept responsibility without the support or the supports you think that you need in order to take responsibility. There's that element of stepping forward and just not knowing how the conversation is going to turn, and the fact that you apologize doesn't assure that that moment has stopped. The fact that you go to a book club, that moment hasn't stopped. You have one good gesture, that moment hasn't stopped. All you've done is accept responsibility for something that you've probably only maybe identified as an alternate universe that you just don't have to actively exist in. But in that moment of me saying to you, how would you say hello in your language, that doesn't that is a that's a freaking handout I've seen in classrooms in the get to know you stage of any September. How do you say hello in your language? And accepting the responsibility that perhaps there's not perhaps that there's a whole other universe that lands in, that you have no clue of the impacts about that, is definitely, I guess, the first step of realizing that taking responsibility isn't a one note act. It can't be. Um, and whether the whataboutism that pops into this is in so much as, like, if this is considered to be low level harm that I've caused to you, it's still in the spectrum of harm, and it's still associated with colonialism. Like, that's the thing. It's all we've done is in some ways made this one corner of colonialism a little bit lighter and maybe slightly humorous. But it doesn't take away the fact that it's humorous and light within the framework of colonialism. Like, that's how that happened. Like, that's that responsibility. So this is where I'll double down what Aldo, the grace and space that Aldo's giving me to grow, but also identify this is also, from the outside, thank you, but from the inside, more. Like you gotta be more, do more. All my model white men out there, come on, you got to do the more. You got to do the more. And if someone that you have pushed or cornered or I gotta get to that. You can leave that up on the screen. Leave that up on the screen. Um, I guess I'm just pushing that the moment, I guess the moment that you think that your apology has been accepted, you haven't all you've done in that case, I think, is reaffirmed your commitment to that one person. But there's the duality of it, is what also are you prepared to commit to sort of change a part of the bigger picture away from that person? Because the responsibility has to be me moving away from you, Roland, right now into a space that isn't safe, and for me to start flexing that exact same mindset to do better. So agreed. Roland, you've proven to be committed to the work, and you're not just here for the chicken wings. Yeah, well, I'll say damn, now I am craving chicken wings.
Why
I,
you're afforded the grace, because
yeah,
you're not just here for the chicken wings. And now I'm scared that the Chicken Wing Council of Canada is going to come after me.
I saw some TikTok. Someone's been pushing the algorithms have been well, and I can only part it. I won't even. So Aldo saying if people had, I'll say, I'll guess my attitude, we would be further ahead. Um, I will neither. I will neither uh, affirm nor disagree. I'll just say that is the space that I think that is the space of that is the space of reconciliation. That is the discussion that is actively happening in any reconciliatory space where you're pursuing truth and you're having individuals that are willing to stay in there and share their truth and share the work of their contexts. So and it's the conversation that will continue long after this podcast, long after my involvement in education, and long after I'm assuming my feet are still fully planted on this earth. So this is the thing. This is what's amazing about an on ramp that can sort of get me thinking about the day and small things leading to possibly big differences. And I still have chicken wings on the brain. So the TikTok videos that have been sending me are individuals. It's in that realm of hot sauce, people wanting to do
Mm.
harm to themselves, right? So the whole have you seen the is it the Paki? Paki, I think, is a brand of chip, and it's the one chip challenge, and it's like this one single chip. Um, yeah, I don't want to ruin my whole day.
Don't ruin your day.
I don't want to ruin my day and ruin like.
Don't
Thanks,
ruin your
Aldo. Appreciate that. I appreciate being acknowledged as someone. I appreciate being acknowledged just in general as um for my intent. That's as best as I can say. Because part of it is measuring the impact. Measuring the impact is it's not like I can't whatever that work is. Again, model white male. I'm going to keep rocking that space in order to sort of like create conversations and create opportunities for other model white males that are assuming they're doing the work. I'm happy to be in that space for a combo. Dziękuję is how you say thank you in Polish. So I'll say to you, Aldo, from my heart to yours, dziękuję. Thank you.
It's not like Aldo just walked off the street and stepped into the podcast. He's known you for a while.
It's
He's
always
known you.
there's people out there like, yo, this Aldo guy's like he's rocking. He's rocking that guest seat on the couch in the Adirondack on it. No, what is it? What do you call those? The Muskoka chair. He's sitting firmly in the Muskoka chair around our campfire right now. Last week, so calling out Aldo, last week I mentioned an individual that had said that they were a listener, and I also said, yeah, I didn't have permission to mention her name. So I'll say good morning to Anna, if Anna's listening out there. Anna dropped by, said the classroom said, thanks for the shout out. I'm like, yeah, I didn't know if I could say her name. So we're gonna make Anna famous. Uh Anna's a educator with me at my school, also works in a some doubling down, all right, works in a community classroom. Anna's been formative and entirely supportive of my questions and looking for supplies and looking for direction. It's been cool to be able to collaborate and connect. So good peeps, good piece.
So speaking, I want to shift just a little bit that I get to stay in my role for next year as re-engagement teacher,
Yep.
and I still haven't been to the basement of the board office. So
Oh my
that is
God.
something
That
I
was
should
like
do this week.
that was you set that was on the to-do list. That was success criteria, a goal. I don't know what the success criteria is, but that was a goal mentioned back like the beginning of this season.
Yeah.
You still haven't made it, eh?
You know what? I'm rarely at the board office, which is
Excuses.
I- I'm rarely at the board office because I'm touring, right? I'm going from school to school, place to place. I spend
Yep.
more time if I'm in a building, it's the alternative education building.
Mhm.
But this coming week's perfect. Maybe I'll do it Wednesday on the actual last day of school. I'll head over there and I'll go check out the basement. Um, I don't know why I don't know how that came. I don't know how I made the connection between your coworker and that, but
The maybe the mystery that I mentioned, that I didn't have permission. I didn't have permission to sort of mention their name. Maybe that's it. Maybe you're not sure if you have permission. You make it sound like letters of mandate are hidden there.
I'm not getting it, Aldo.
I'm
If
not
you have a
getting it,
minute,
Aldo.
make the connection for us to
Yeah,
something
for
to
sure.
what was said. Speaking of mandates, though, Dougie, our good Premier Dougie, was they swore in his cabinet yesterday, and I
Oh yeah,
saw
who's EDU?
it's still Minister Lecce is
Okay.
EDU, and oh, getting to the basement is what he was
Oh
referring to.
yeah, yeah.
You make it sound like letters of mandate are hidden there. You know what? I don't know what's hidden there. Which okay, so Dougie swears in his people, and I'm literally shaking my head. I'm
Mhm.
shaking my head, man. It's like I guess I just it's gonna take destroying the province for people to decide to vote against um, people like Dougie and his followers. But I guess that's okay. What else are we gonna do? We need to destroy Ontario first. Um, but I think we in EDU we have a recipe book. We have a playbook for how to make education great. And I think that when we're provided the opportunity to do so, we'll just pull out the playbook and get back to work to fix everything that's going to be broken. But
I
same
had
with
can I it's
healthcare.
so just on it was I had a kind of a funny cringy conversation with someone that it was just in the conversation around because right now I'm mapping out different things I want to get rolling for students for next year. And someone said to me, yeah, but there's going to be like work to rule. There's good, like, why would you start to map that stuff out? And like, I said, I don't know. I said, is there? I said, it didn't work how we expected last time. We still have another 4 years with Dougie Fresh and his rotten bunch. Like it's like we have we didn't I don't know. I don't know what the perspective will be. I don't know what the next step will be. I mean, I love that. I love, and this is just the I guess it's slightly political anarchist mindset. I've told you how I work sometimes, how I like to uh like pull things apart to the point like I'm not even sure how to put them back together again. That's just what my brain does. I love the fact that you can say, is the choice that like it's just going to be like, is there choice to destroy the province? And I know in this exact same moment, there's someone that's like, yay, they're going to save the province. And both of those things are true. Both of those things are true. I don't have the scope to see entirely from that other perspective because I'm so distant from it, but I know that other perspective exists. And I say, how do I float between the two so that I can understand what's best for me, for my family, for my community, for right Ontario, whatever. But that's always a mind blower to me. That in the exact same moment, we, you know, you wagging the finger at Doug Ford for whatever I believe they've done to destroy education and his minion Lecce. Like at the same time, there's someone that's actually saying, "No, this is fantastic." And that person might even say, "This is good for education." They may even step that far to say, "This is good for education. This is good for community. This is good for Ontario." They exist in a big picture, an alternate universe that I can't I won't even say I won't. It's not that I won't. I'm not quite sure how to step into their universe to kind of take a peek through that keyhole and see what's going on. I don't know how to do it.
I seem to be surrounded by people who do not like, liberal policy,
Mhm.
new democratic policy. And I say to them, okay, well, what's your real issue? And the real issue is money spending. They they perceive money being wasted. And I say to them, okay, like I don't disagree with you. I don't want my government blowing money like crazy either. But I say I live in a certain world. I have a certain worldview.
Mhm.
And my worldview is working with your kids. And so for me, their focus is on just in general spending. My focus is on how do I best serve your kids? And then when we look at each other that way, we can see the gap between us. We'd be like, oh shoot, I guess we're gonna have to kind of come out of our general thinking and move into a specific so we can close that gap. And I just say to them, my concern is your kid. And I'm like, yeah, I get paid a lot of money. Go cry about it. Like go do what you want with that. It's not like I have a college diploma and I'm making over $100,000. I've put in the work and I'm just saying I have university degrees, I have AQ courses. Like I put in the work to become a better professional. Why should I not be paid like a professional? That's a whole other thing. But I say to them, your kids are going to suffer. And I've actually said to some of my friends, I know your son has an IEP. I know your daughter has learning needs. They're going to suffer because that spending stops at the top. And then they figure out, how do we funnel all this down? How do we take things away? How do we not provide more? Then they kind of look at me funny, like, we don't want that for our children. I'm like, but that's at the end of the day, that's what it's going to boil down to in education. And then, the nurse standing beside me, she starts talking about nursing and what we're going to see and how it's going to play out because of the stopping the spending. So then where's the money going? It's going to these new roads that they want to build. It's going to their buddies who want to, it's a business. They're connected, they want to make money. And this is the problem with politics. I'm not naive enough to believe that one party's doing these things and another's not. They're all doing it. That's the problem. But at least with the government we have, they're pretty transparent about it, even though they're hiding those mandate letters in the basement, right, Aldo? They're still, they can't hide it. They can't hide that they're there for themselves, that they want to make some money, they're going to help their buddies out. They can't hide it. It is in plain sight, but people are so upset that they don't even care. They don't even care. These people were elected with no platform. They're like, oh, we just want to hang out for 4 years. Let us do that. Okay, Ontario says, we'll let you hang out for 4 years. They're going to destroy it. They're going to destroy the province. So they're going to destroy it so bad. The people that brought them in because they couldn't stand the alternative are going to be like, oh my God, we need an alternative now. It's going to be so bad, even they're going to see it. I don't know what to say or do. There's no simple answer. And when I hear my friends talk, you know, I do my best to really put myself in their shoes. So I listen to the cops, I listen to what they say, I listen to the blue collar people, I listen to what they're saying, and I try to understand where they're coming from. And then I all I want is for them to try to understand where I'm coming from, you know? Um, it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting, and it's been hard to I've had to reflect a lot on, do I still want to be this person's friend? Like, do I want to still call this person my friend because of the heated conversations around the worldviews and the ideologies and stuff? It's like that's tough. I don't remember ever having to really do that before. But COVID has pushed us into this area. Like, so my son was at a hockey tournament last week, and I believe my son and I were the only two people on the whole team wearing a mask in the hotel, wearing a mask at the rink. And I give the team that part of I'm not complaining, I'm just saying nobody said anything to me. My wife said, "Did anybody say anything to you?" I said, "Nope, nobody said anything to me." Um, I could tell the strain. Imagine being in a hockey rink, a really loud hockey rink with lots of people there, and I'm trying to talk to my buddies, and I'm wearing a mask so they can't read my lips. So I could see them struggling. I could see them struggling to understand, to comprehend what I was trying to say. And so I just turned up my volume. But then I could see their discomfort and how loud I was talking. I was like, well, I'm not taking my mask off here. There's like a zillion people here. I don't know where anybody's come from. I could be sick and I don't even know. And I don't want to be the one to give you COVID or whatever. So it was tough. I felt pressure even though nobody said anything. I could feel it. Um, but I'm here to model for my son. And if, a couple times we get out of the car to run into the hotel and I turn and he'd be wearing his mask, I'm like, I got to run back to the car. I left my mask in the car. And I'm like, I want him to feel comfortable. That's why we're there. We're not there for me. We're there for him. And it's just funny because I'm like, oh, he's like, Dad, you left your mask in the car. Yeah, I did. Okay, let's go. But big thumbs up to the people I was hanging out with. Nobody said anything. Nobody was being negative to me about wearing my mask. I wasn't being negative to them for not wearing a mask. It just was what it was. I'd walk in the rink and I'd put my mask on, and then when I'd walk out, and some of my buddies were really good about. They're like, "Hey, let's go outside and talk," because they know the minute I step out the doors, I'll take the mask off. And when we're eating, I'm not wearing the mask, obviously. So it's just with COVID. COVID has changed a lot of things that we're never going to get back. The other night, my wife and I were chatting, and I said, between COVID and the internet, we've ruined ourselves. And she was baffled by that statement. She's like, okay, you don't just drop something like that and walk away. I started to talk about how the ease of being able to get anything you want whenever you want, how you want over the internet, communicate with whoever you want. It's like this has made us lazier people. And I said to her, if we had COVID in the 90s, we'd still all be wearing masks. And I don't, and the people on the other side are like, that's because you comply. I'm like, no, it's not because I comply. It's because we wouldn't have all these different viewpoints in our face, arguing with people 24/7 digitally. We would not be as lazy in general, and we'd need to pay attention to the experts. Everybody's a friggin' expert now. Everybody's an expert. You drop a line about something, and I can research it right now. Whether that research is good or not, I can still get information that was not at my fingertips in the 90s. It's at my fingertips now. So anyway, there's my little rant about that. But Aldo says politics is a dirty business. 100% Aldo. Staggering ignorance and cognitive dissonance. It's why we're here again. Yep. We would have more care about and for each other. I agree. I do agree. So I try to remember. I try to tap into all that stuff. Here's another good one. This was interesting, actually. This was
Can I
interesting.
can I say before you go into that, I appreciate where Aldo's going, but I'm really resistant to that type of hopeful logic building. I am. I'm very resistant to it. I don't um I get the statement because it counterpoints and gives us kind of like a refreshment on some of the emotions that we have. But I think the longer that I spend um, really kind of scrutinizing systems, it keeps me from having I'll go to I mean that type of judgment. I'll go back to some of the conversations you and I have had about maintaining sort of like a stoic mindset, and the idea that a thing is just a thing until you actually put that positive or negative on it, right? And what makes it positive or negative? There's a whole lot of contexts that can feed into that. And I'm very resistant to that judgment I find these days. I feel that's what COVID has done to me. It's pushed me further back from the eyepiece and really keeps me from it's a neutralizing effect. It's a bit of a flat effect, but it also keeps me from committing an emotional evaluation of hope. Um, and I find that in some of the things my creative spaces that I'm that sort of that idea of hope. I don't. It's not an hope is it never becomes a noun. It's always got to be a verb, as in it's sort of like it's reflective of the work that we're moving towards, as opposed to an outcome that we're entitled to or something we've earned. So it's never a destination. It's always the active version of hope. So that there's some no no but Aldo, just if you see I'm splitting the hair there, right? Um and Aldo, yeah, the it is. So he's all Aldo's dropping into Clef. I get it. It's more complex than that. There's different perspectives here. But that is the interesting thing that I find myself more resistant to sort of thinking both that our education system is destroyed or will be destroyed, and that it could be better right now or will get better in the future. Um and the dislocation of myself out of that center, I find that equalizing. I find that sort of not committing that emotional state is good for me. It's good for me. I think it allows me to kind of do what you're doing, which is have more conversations not only with myself but with other people. Are there things that I find I feel pain for? Are there things that impact my family? Are there things that um, I don't I float between wanting them to be different or just wishing that they never came to me, and I find like they never impacted me. Why it's just yeah. This is getting too ranty, but part of it is I'm really resistant to sort of judging anything right now according to education as, best of times or worst of times.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Dude, we've been on for an hour. I don't remember the last time we stayed for an hour. I think it's because Aldo's here. We came for the chicken wings, but we stayed for the conversation.
That's
That's what I
good.
think happened.
There's some flavor on it.
Yeah, man. There's some flavor. What do we got? We got the maple leaf today. Do the colors mean anything, or is that just your artistic flair? I'm just wondering.
Yes. Yes. I can. It's not doing well. If I do
It,
that, you can kind of see some.
I can see it's red. It looks red on the outside and then goldish black on the inside.
Yeah, there's a few.
Oh,
It'll pop more on the Insta feed. Don't you worry.
you gonna tell me what it means? Because you won't tell me on the Insta feed.
No, I know, I never do. I don't know. I guess I started to think about the whole how do you say hello? It's a little more complex than that. I don't know. Most times you see the maple leaf, you're gonna see a maple leaf that's primarily red. But dude, if you sort of check out if you're a model white male and taking part in the model white male stereotypical fall activity of raking leaves, um, I don't know. I've noticed a few times that the leaves are not primarily red. There's lots of different colors in there. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor.
Dude, I'm glad that you drew the maple leaf because it lit me up a little bit.
Mhm.
I now, ever since the whole trucker convoy, I I see the maple leaf differently now.
Mm.
I used to see the maple leaf, I used to see the Canada flag, and when I would see it pre truck convoy, um, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, sign me up for whatever that is. That's a patriot there. That's someone who loves his country." Now I see it and I wonder what that person's thinking. I wonder, is that person, do they see it the same way I see it, or do they see it, because there's a difference now, right? Those people see freedom in a different way than what I see as freedom. And I'm 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 not getting the feels these days when I see the Canada flag.
Not getting the feels
I'm not getting the
of
feels that
what you want? Like,
yeah, yeah, like
you're en are you talking about your entitled feels?
no, no, I'm suspicious. I'm
Mm,
suspicious of what that why that person is flying the flag high and proud.
mhm.
And I wasn't suspicious before
No?
the
Not at
trucker
all?
convoy. Not really, no. I didn't. Maybe I
Can
didn't.
you even okay, so here's the thing that I'm wondering, though. Can you even access that question from here? Can you even you know what I mean? It's kind of like we do this, I think, sometimes in our analysis that somehow we had access to this thinking, but we didn't. We that when we sort of pose the possibility that we could have done differently or things were different, can you even access the version of you that was thinking through the value of the Canadian leaf 10 years ago? You know what I mean? Like, is that even possible for you?
Well, I boil it down to just being naive. That's what I
Okay.
boil it down to, because for me, pre-convoy, everybody would be waving that flag on Canada Day. Like it's a symbol to me. Whatever it meant to me before was a naive version, and now it's not naive anymore. And I can't unsee. For example, you helped me see something I can't unsee years ago when you asked me a simple question around Canada Day. Do you know what Canada Day really means? Where it came from? And its negative impact, or the negative impact that it has had on indigenous people of this country. I never thought of that before. And then when you asked me a couple of questions, I'll never forget, because I was um, I was at a cottage for Canada Day that year. And while, Sarah and her sister bought a bunch of Canada Day stuff for us to celebrate, since we were isolated because it was major COVID times. Still, it's when I came to visit you that week. I came to visit you for the first time in Newmarket. We
Mhm.
did our food crawl.
Mhm.
I was at that cottage and I remember thinking, and I was reading the book by Dr. Kendi that we were studying. Um, the name escapes me at the minute. So
How to be anti-racist.
was it how? No, I don't think it was How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Stamped?
Yes, Stamped. Um, is is that anyway? Um, we were reading Stamped. We were in the middle of the book club. I was away. We were on vacation, but on our own. And I'm thinking about Canada Day. I'm thinking about our Indigenous people. I'm thinking about, racist, anti-racist. All that's floating in my head. And I remember the kids outside waving the flag, and I just all of a sudden started to see it differently. And then as years have gone on and now the convoy, now I really see it differently. Like now when I'm driving down the street and I see a car or a truck, it's usually trucks is what I'm seeing. And they've got this huge Canada flag waving from the back. I'm like, is this the nefarious version, or is this the naive version that I'd like to keep in my head? I don't know, but at least now it's there and I can't unsee it. Are these people pro convoy, which means that they're hanging with people or hanging with symbolism that is not about freedom traditionally? Like, I don't know. And I try. in that moment, I want to judge. I try not to judge. I just wonder. Like I see the Canada flag. I see it differently now. I see it differently now because it doesn't represent all of us, and it may not even represent me. But I drank the Kool-Aid in terms of I did what I was told. I participated in this system, and so to me, I believed what people wanted me to believe about that flag. Now I wonder. Aldo says he has to bounce in a few deck building and refereeing 7 games. Thanks for letting me into this space. My steel is sharpened by yours. Hey, thanks for spending your time with us here at Decoded.
It's great
We
to see you, Aldo. Great to
It's
see you.
always great to see Aldo. So Aldo,
Hmm.
enjoy your weekend.
Hmm.
Your last weekend before school ends, brother. He judges Convoy Canadians are a perverse group.
Hmm.
Oh, Aldo. I can't believe we got to meet Aldo face to face recently. Incredible
That,
stuff, man.
that was very cool. That's the alternate universes coming together kind of stuff
Yeah, that was
for
fun. That
for
was
a
fun.
good reason, for a very good reason.
Before we go, can I just say one more thing about having met Aldo and coming up to see
And
you?
you got to spend more like, yeah, peace, Aldo, peace. He's checking out. Despite the fact you got to spend, you coming up to check out the play I was in. I mean, I got to spend like an hour and a half with you folks, let's say. But the distance was like, I just knew you were in the audience when I noticed you folks there. But I got to tell you, I love the fact that you got it. He's still here.
We'll
Although
be
it
done
hasn't
in a
left
minute
yet.
or
I
two.
haven't left yet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're wrapping up all the way. I love the fact that this small moment on stage for me kind of created a little pocket universe for you folks to come together. That's so cool. Like that's really cool that you got a chance to kind of meet those all those dudes face to face. So that's cool.
The other day, I got a bill from the uh, the ETR, the whatchamacallit, the highways where
Yep,
they
yep.
charge you ETR. Is that what they are? Ontario ETR highways or
Yeah,
whatever.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay,
Roadways, toll road. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yes, toll road. So I got the bill for it. Aldo saying the long Jamaican goodbye. Yeah, he said goodbye 5 minutes ago. He'll still be
That's
here when
good.
we're
That's
gone. But
good.
anyway, um,
He wants
I
us to hang up first because that's the
we
thing
will,
I've
we will
noticed in some immigrant families. It's like, yep, okay, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Yep, love you, goodbye,
click,
goodbye.
and then
What?
everybody's gone.
What? What? Yeah, yeah, for sure next week. Okay, goodbye. Like you're waiting for that. You're trying to push the other one off the log, so to speak. Eh? I love it.
So I get the bill. And I'm like, "What is this? When was I on these roads?" I'm all like livid, right?
I've
Like
been hacked.
we're cooking in the kitchen, and I'm like, "Sarah, what? Did you go anywhere?" And she's like, "What's the date, Roland?" So I tell her the date, and she's like, "You went to see Clubs play." I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh," and then I settle down, and I smile, and I'm like, "Okay, no problem." Like I was just like, "What is this? How dares they tell us that we traveled on their toll roads? I've not." I'm like, she's like, "Yes, you did." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did. That's when I
that's
went
funny.
to Aurora." Yeah. Anyway, okay, well, hey, this was season 5, episode 44 of the Decoded
Actually,
podcast.
I think it's 34.
You're right, it is 34.
And the
I,
only reason I realized that is I just wrote it. I wrote it at the bottom of the drawing, and then I looked over at my box tree, and it said E33. So I went back just to check the numbers: 32, 33, 34, 44. 44 will be into summer school. We'll be into summer school episodes, but
wow, I
yeah,
bumped us by 10 weeks, bro. That's the whole
okay.
summer's gone.
That's our September episode.
Forget
That's
that.
awesome.
Okay,
Forget
I'll fix
that.
that.
All right, peace, man.
Have a good one.